influence. I've been listening to Malcolm Duncan, I forgot his name, Malcolm Duncan, who's in Northern Ireland, the leader of a church there, also influential in terms of Spring Harvest. I think he's written the theme book for the next event. He's been running through Daniel on Sunday mornings, 8 o'clock in the morning, before he goes to his own church and preaches there. I've always been amazed at the story of Daniel, so I just want to read Daniel 1 to 20. I'd love you to think about people's influence in this passage. It was the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's reign in Judah when King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon declared war on Jerusalem and besieged the city. The master handed King Jehoiakim of Judah over to him, along with some of the furnishings from the temple of God. Nebuchadnezzar took king and furnishings to the country of Babylon, the ancient Shinar. He put the furnishings in the sacred treasury. The king told Ashpenaz, head of the palace staff, to get some Israelites from the royal family and nobility, young men who were healthy and handsome, intelligent and well-educated, good prospects for leadership positions in the government, perfect specimens, and indoctrinate them in the Babylonian language and the law of magic and fortune-telling. The king then ordered that they be served from the same menu as the royal table, the best food, the finest wine. After 3 years of training, they would be given positions in the king's court. 4 young men from Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were among those selected. The head of the palace staff gave them Babylonian names. Daniel was named Belteshazzar, Hananiah was named Shadrach, Mishael was named Meshach, Azariah was named Abednego. And you've heard that thing about the names, haven't you? Your shack, my shack, and a bungalow. Moving on swiftly. So I'm pausing. How much influence did you think those 4 individuals had? What influence did they have? Did they have any? But Daniel determined that he would not defile himself by eating the king's food or drinking the wine. So he asked the head of the palace staff to exempt him from the royal diet. The head of the palace staff, by God's grace, liked Daniel, but he warned him, "I'm afraid of what my master, the king, will do. He is the one who assigned this diet, and if he sees that you are not as healthy as the rest, he'll have my head." But Daniel appealed to a steward who had been assigned by the head of the palace staff to be in charge of Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. "Try us out for 10 days on a simple diet of vegetables and water. Then compare us with the young men who eat from the royal menu. Make your decision on the basis of what you see." I'm pausing. So Daniel's using his influence. We thought he might not have any influence, but he's using his influence. Was that risky? Was that risky for Daniel? Was that risky for the guy that was responsible for feeding them and giving them a drink? Was it risky? The steward agreed to do it and fed them vegetables and water for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked better and more robust than all the others who had been eating from the royal menu. So the steward continued to exempt them from the royal menu of food and drink and served them only vegetables. God gave these 4 young men knowledge and skill in both books and life. In addition, Daniel was gifted in understanding all sorts of visions and dreams. At the end of the time set by the king for their training, the head of the royal staff brought them into Nebuchadnezzar. When the king interviewed them, he found them far superior to all the other young men. None were a match for Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And so they took their place in the king's service. Whenever the king consulted them on anything, on books or on life, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his kingdom put together. So the guys used their influence and they proved successful. Just want to give you the dictionary definition of influence. The capacity to have an effect on the character, the development or behaviour of someone or something, or the effect itself. So a few questions for your mind. Who is the most influential living person today? President Putin? President Zelensky? Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook? Tim Cook of Apple? Johnny Ive, the designer of lots of the Apple products? Greta Thunberg? Who's coming to your mind? Just want to challenge us that we've all got influence. I remember memorably Alistair Campbell years ago talking about influence being like a currency that you get to spend, and talking about how we are using your currency. So some people have got huge amounts of currency. As a U2 fan, I'm conscious that Bono has got loads of influence in ways that other people haven't. He spends his currency to influence. Are you using your influence? Who influences you? Who do you influence? Thought that was a good opportunity to have the sharing time now. What has God been doing in your life this week, in the life of others? And if you wanted to say something about influence, your influence, how you've been influenced, how you're being influenced, it'd be great to hear some of your stories.